What a drag. The famous Shikamaru line. A phrase obviously used by a kid who supposedly just wanted a simple life. Or did it actually mean something deeper? I love Shikamaru's character. He's a genius kid who becomes one of the greatest strategists in the entire show. And not to mention his iconic shadow possession jutsu. He's talented, yet wants nothing to do with anything that requires too much energy. He just wants a simple life for himself and not much more. But that's just what's on the surface. His laziness is seen as something regular. But I think it's actually something a lot of us struggle with ourselves. He portrays himself as lazy because he knows that if he truly excels, he will be placed in highly uncomfortable situations. Situations where people depend on him. Situations where he has to lead. Situations where failure actually matters. And this is us. We procrastinate sometimes not because we can't succeed, but because of what comes with success. Pressure, expectation, responsibility, emotional weight, and the possibility of disappointing ourselves. So instead, we stay comfortable. We stay distracted. We get lazy to avoid any emotional weight, often undervaluing the genius that is within us, that may one day become useful to the people we encounter throughout our lives. At first glance, many would see Shikamaru as highly intelligent, emotionally restrained, and a strategic thinker who has low outward motivation and avoids unnecessary effort. But I think Shikamaru is much deeper than that. He's smart, and so smart that he's found a way to avoid responsibility by hiding his competence. Shikamaru in the Chunin exams go as far as to win his round, but then proceeds to forfeit because he simply doesn't want to continue. Not because he couldn't, but because continuing means more pressure, and pressure means expectation. And a lot of us do this in real life. If we never fully try, then we never fully fail. If we never chase greatness, then greatness can never be expected from us. And it seems that he falls into intellectualization as a defense mechanism, which is using logic and analysis to distance yourself from emotional pain. I mean, it's quite simple. If he just remains rational, if he just remains the strategist and problem solver, then emotions never truly have to be dealt with. Better yet, I'm not going to get my hopes up so I won't be disappointed ever. Sound familiar? I'm sure Shikamaru isn't really lazy. I think he struggles with burden. A burden to others, as well as not wanting to burden himself. He's highly self-aware, but that self-awareness can also lead to caution, hesitation, overthinking, and emotional fatigue. And just like everyone else, what we avoid often resurfaces through situations outside of our control, because avoidance only works until life forces reality onto you. The shift in Shikamaru happens as he struggles to grieve his sensei Asuma after his death. He's forced into a situation where rational thought can no longer carry him through. He must instead bear the weight of what he wanted to avoid the most: responsibility. But responsibility for dealing with the guilt associated with grief. And what makes this so powerful is that Shikamaru struggles to process it, because logic has always been his answer. Strategy has always been his comfort zone. But grief doesn't care how intelligent you are. Pain doesn't disappear just because you analyze it. And in that moment, his upbringing becomes obvious. He struggles to grieve because thinking his way around emotions has always been easier than going through them. But this pain matures him. After Asuma's death, he is no longer that scared kid who just wants to be lazy and avoid burden. He slowly starts transforming into the person people can depend on. Because avoiding responsibility was never going to stop life from giving it to him. Not because he suddenly becomes fearless, but because he finally accepts the emotional weight that comes with caring. And later in the show, during the Great Ninja War, we truly get to see the impact of that growth. The laziness we claim to have is something much deeper. We oftentimes delay our purpose because we know what comes with it. The responsibility of having to maintain success, the pressure to grow, the possibility of failure, the emotional weight of being relied on. But at the end of the day, we have to stop being spectators in our own life and finally participate in it. Because if we don't, either life will pass us by while we slowly deteriorate, or circumstances outside of our control will eventually be hurled our way and force us to confront everything we've been avoiding anyway, just like it did for Shikamaru. Because responsibility was always waiting for him anyway. Shikamaru was a genius, and honestly, so are a lot of us. But intelligence means nothing if fear keeps you from using it. Responsibility is uncomfortable. Growth is uncomfortable. Transformation is uncomfortable. But hiding from your potential is uncomfortable too. So the question becomes, which discomfort are you going to choose? Because at the end of the day, a life that never reaches its full potential, now that's a drag.